Okay, question 4. Nicola has joined a gym, something that I really should do. The pie chart shows a portion of time spent on her workouts. So she warms up, she does some CD, like running, cardiovascular, all the kind of heart stuff. Then resistance training, so that must be weights and stuff, so I'm told. And then cool down, classic, I would usually just not bother with a warm up, go in, get injured, then spend my time at the cafe. Very different pie chart. But yeah, calculate how long in minutes she spends on resistance training. Okay, so she spends a whole lot is 1 hour 45. So for this, what you're thinking is 360 degrees are what's in a circle. Yeah, 360 degrees are in a circle, and that is equal to 1 hour 45 minutes. So that's equal to 105 minutes. Okay, 105 minutes. And then you're saying, well, I want to work out resistance training. So that's this one, 144. How do you get from there to there? Now, that's one way of thinking about it. If you wanted to, you could say, okay, well, I'll get to 1 degree, and then I'll get up to 144 degrees. So I'm going to divide by 360 and times by 144. That's one way of thinking about it. So you're going to end up with 40, if you do your calcs, you're going to end up with 42 minutes in there. The other way would just be to do a little equation where you say you've got 105 minutes, and I'm going to times it by the 144 degrees out of 360 degrees. That'll still give you 42 minutes as well. Now this way I quite like because it ties in with what we've done with percentages before. We find 1 degree, or we find 1%, etc. But this way I like as well because it's very similar to working out kind of volumes and areas. If you're looking at a circle. Okay, what's the area of that circle? Let's say that pi r squared comes out as 20, right? So then someone might say, well, what's the area of the same size circle, but I've lost this big chunk? Well, you would say, well, it's going to be 20 multiplied by a quarter. I've only got 1/4 left. I've got 90 degrees left out of my 360 degrees. So I quite like that, to make you think about ratioing sizes and things. But this is maybe the way I would usually do that question. So yeah, two ways of doing it: take your total amount times by this ratio, or the percentage method we've been doing as well. Nice one. Nicola spent 21 minutes exercising on a treadmill. Her average speed was this. Calculate the distance she ran on the treadmill. Okay, so a few things going through your head. You might be thinking speed equals distance over time. Yeah. I'm trying to find the distance, so I need to rearrange that formula. Now, what you can do is remember your triangle. So you've got speed, distance, and you've got time. And what to do is, if you cover up the thing you're trying to find, this will tell you what to do. So if I'm trying to find speed, let's cover up speed. What do I see? I've got distance over time. Yep, that's what it is. Absolutely. If I'm trying to find time, cover that up. Distance over speed, etc., etc. So if I'm trying to find distance, that's going to be speed multiplied by time. So distance is equal to speed multiplied by time. It should be easy enough to remember that because the units for speed is literally distance divided by a time. So you should always be able to remember that. And if you don't like the triangle method, again, for here, the rearrange is not very hard. How do you get rid of dividing by t? Well, you times both sides by t. Times that side by t, half the side times this side by t, then they cancel out. So d is equal to speed times time. So you can kind of rearrange quite easy. Anyway, so distance is speed times time. What is my speed? Well, it's 6.6 kilometers an hour, and I'm traveling for 21 minutes. So the 21 minutes, I can't really just times it by 21. I need to put that as a ratio of an hour, don't I? So for that, you're saying the time is 21 out of 60. If you just put 21 in, that would then imply 21 hours because it's 6.6 kilometers every hour. So you want to again ratio that 21 into the suitable units. So you want to do 21 divided by 60. So that's going to come out as 6.6 times 0.35, which will come out as 2.31 kilometers. Okay, so just make sure your units are the same for this. Yeah, and happy days. Make sure your units are the same and you've got your formula. All right, have a little look at question 5. Okay, so for this one, we've got 3 tons of sheep feed, food will feed that many sheep for 18 days, and then the number increases, so how long is it going to last? Okay, so you're trying to think, well, how much food have I got for one sheep? That would be quite good, wouldn't it? If we can go one sheep, then we can factor up to the number, right? Because this is going to go up to 450, right? So that'll give me 450. So if you get 350 sheep, and they've now, they can now eat for 18 days. If you multiply those two numbers together, you're saying, well, if I just did one sheep, then that one sheep could be eating for 6,300 days. It's kind of like working out how many rations you've got. Similar if you think of the easier numbers. If you get 10 people, right, and they can eat for 2 days, you'd be thinking, all right, well, one person, he can eat surely for 20 days, couldn't he? Because we've got like 20 rations. 10 people can eat for 2 days. That's like 20 rations or amounts if you want to think about it. Do you know what I mean? So you're doing the inverse, you're doing the opposite in this case. So before we did the same on both sides, for this one you're doing the opposite. So here we're saying, well, I need to divide by 350. Well, this is then times it by 350. Okay, you're doing the inverse rather than what we're doing before. Okay, so if that's one sheep doing that, then okay, well, I'm then going to multiply up. I'm going to say, well, what about 450 sheep? So times them by 450. Well, this one we'll have to divide by 450 then. So 450 sheep, that's going to give me 14 days worth of food. So this one's a wee bit counterintuitive. You'd maybe think that would be an equals, and what you do to one side you do to the other, but it's an opposite. Okay, so just try and think about it in your head with simple numbers. I mean, I can get my head around that. If 10 people can eat for 2 days, then one person could eat for 20. That makes sense. Or 20 people could eat for just one day. If you were to double the amount of people, you're going to half the amount of time, aren't you? So, yeah, and that's an inverse question, that one. And a volume question now. So we've got our cylinder. So cylinder is a special prism. That's our circular prism. You're given the volume of prism. So it's going to be pi r squared, which is the area of the circle, multiplied by the height. So pi on your calculator. The radius is going to be half the diameter. Diameter goes from edge to edge, so it's half of this, so 1.5, 6, 7, 8, 9, so it's 1.9 squared, multiplied by your height, 9.7. So that one, stick that in my calculator. That's going to come out as 110.009, etc. meters cubed. Okay, so that's a nice question. When you see these shapes, you're given the formula, you just have to substitute in. You have to know radius is half the diameter, and that's kind of it. So they're nice questions, actually. I can see why this one, you've got to try and visualize it a little bit. But for this, straight kind of plug and go type thing, really good. Good question. So we do that one. So we've got some ratios. Okay, so for this one, you should be thinking that I've got Ali, I've got Kate, and I've got Jim. And they've paid in the restaurant in a ratio, of 3, 5, and 7. And Jim, he's got 154. So what you want to do is work out what one share is worth. So to go back, what we're saying is that 7 shares are worth 154. So if 7 shares are worth £154, then one share is going to be 154 divided by 7. So that's going to come out as 22. So one share is worth 22. So then all we're doing is timesing each of the shares by 22, and that will give us our amount times by 22. So this person is going to get 66. So Ali's on 66. And 110 for Kate. Nice one. So that's what they all get. And in total then, we add all that together, we'll do a little chimney sum. 110, 150, that's calculator paper. So that's 0, carry my 1, so that's 6, 7, 8, 13, and finally 3. So yeah, £330 on. So for this one, write your names, get the ratios below them. 7 shares is equal to this amount, so divide to work out what your times in each of your shares by. Job's a good. Alright, hope that was helpful.